Okay, so Tom Healy from Trainual. Tell me about Trainual and what you do there, and maybe even a little background on what you've done for us at Chenal Family Therapy.
Sure. So Traineal is a knowledge center for a business, and everything goes in that so that people know what to do. They know where they're supposed to be. They know how to do their job. And it's just a great resource for organizations to capture all of that knowledge in one place so that your team feels empowered. They know what they need to do. When they have a question, they have a place to immediately go and get an answer. And of course, it's organized in a very user-friendly way. So leveraging AI, easy to search for content, easy to get answers, easy to navigate through SOPs and best practices and onboarding, org charts, roles, responsibilities, everything's in that one location versus, as you know, in random people's minds
Yeah.
and hard to extract. So we just try to make it easy for and practice to be able to run and scale and onboard and offboard people and everything that goes into that.
And I think that's what led us to you guys. I mean, we've probably been working together 5, 6, 7 years at this point.
Yep.
I was trying to find something that was like a cross between Wikipedia and an intranet at a company. I've worked at,
Yeah.
I wanted stuff that was able to link and you could jump from one article to another if something tickled your curiosity. And that's really kind of what you guys have been for us is this very visual intranet interlinked web of knowledge. It's been great.
Oh, and those are two great analogies. So the intranet, the idea of we're going to take every piece of information about our business and put it into one centralized location that the team can access. Yes. And then, with some of the really cool stuff we're doing with AI, you're not asking ChatGPT or Copilot for random information about
Mhm.
any medical practice. You're asking you're using AI to ask specific questions of your practice. And so the answers are much better. And same with that wiki, that's another great analogy of, hey, where do I go to just ask questions? And the AI stuff is so powerful because it's offering up things that maybe you haven't even created yet, but it's doing it
Mhm.
based on your mission, your vision, your
Mhm.
values, your documentation, everything that you've already created, which is great. And I mean, any new person to an organization, what do they want to know? What are some of the basics, and what do I do in this situation? And if a patient has this issue, how do I handle it? And rather than there being a bottleneck of a person that may or may not have an answer, that may or may not even be working that day or at your clinic, imagine the power of I'm going to grab my phone. Boop, boop, boop. Okay, great. Now I know how to do that and I can move on to the next thing.
So, one of the things too that as you said that, it reminded me of the early days of my practice. I mean, we're about 200 staff now, but when we were 10, 15, 20 folks, one, every dang email with every question about where does this go in the file or like all that stuff would come to me from like I was the answer guy for the whole practice, which meant I couldn't scale the business anymore because I was the human Wikipedia. And there was so much conflict in the company because people didn't know where to look for the most updated answer on who handles what now. And in these scaling companies, I think they're actually held back from their growth, from the ability to execute and scale because the knowledge is locked up in different heads and different silos.
You become a complete bottleneck, and it's
Yeah.
like, look, I'm with a patient, I'm on vacation, I'm looking at real estate. I mean, there's other responsibilities you have rather than just sitting, in a chair waiting for people to come in and ask you questions. And so and then you start to extrapolate that and you say, okay, well, how many hours am I spending answering questions over and
Yeah.
over again? And it never stops because there's always new employees, there's new processes. So how many hours is it? And then, of course, the question I'm going to ask is the business coach or advisor is what's an hour of your time worth?
Yeah.
Okay. So build a knowledge center and go make money, generate revenue for the
Yeah.
practice and let technology handle this.
Well, and I think that's a big piece of it too is, in my experience with Trainual, which is I think the best platform we found for this, you can see who's completed what amount of training in there, who's what. I mean, as stuff rolls out, you can have everybody notified automatically of policy changes. I mean, that was a lot of the chaos early on that slowed down our execution and scaling as a practice. Was the policy was this 2 months ago when we were 20 people, but now that we're 30, we've had to change it, but nobody got the memo kind of thing. And so,
Sure. Do what's our maternity policy? Well, we don't have one because we don't have an employee handbook, or we do have one, but I can't remember.
yeah,
Well, this person was allowed to be gone for 12 weeks, so I get 12 weeks. Well, no, we changed it. Well, where is that? Because, I already spoke to my husband about the fact that I'd be off work for 12, and now you're putting out a fire. And that's, so many, I mean, this is completely
yeah,
avoidable, but and it stacks up. It's that one day, then it's something else. And so, employee handbook, policies, procedures, how to file an expense report, how to use our HRIS. I mean, all these little things. And I remember one time working with a company years ago that had a big tech stack. They were kind of a complicated business,
hmm,
and so every new person had to learn all the technology.
yeah,
And I said, "Who does that?" And it was, "Oh, well, Mary over there." And so, okay, well, how many people are you hiring, and how many hours does it take to train each person?
hmm,
And oh, that's basically your full-time job, is to do something that we could automate. And
yeah,
then when I dug in further, I realized that that person, a very lovely, nice person, but they really weren't good at teaching people how to use the technology. So then
yeah,
everyone came back and had questions and needed help. And then she would get frustrated and just do it for them. And to
yeah.
your point earlier, you can't scale a business behaving that way.
No,
And then
and
that person, here's the other thing, as an owner, that terrifies me is
mm,
that person knows that they're a gatekeeper for that information, and they're going
yeah,
to use it as leverage when they ask for a pay
yeah.
raise, or they're going to hold you hostage, or they're going to leave and leave you in a tough spot. And that's a very
They become cultural
precarious
terrorists.
position. Absolutely.
So this is one of the huge glaring blind spots in the mental health, like smaller group practice space right now, right? Is we have these kind of oral legacy type practices where, we've handed down how to do things, but these practices have grown so quick. They don't have anything in a consolidated place. God help them if an attorney ever, says we want to see your employee handbook. But I think a lot of them are feeling overwhelmed by where do I even start? Blah blah blah. Um, Tell us about what Trainual can do. They've got all these emails. They've explained this stuff a million times. It's in writing in a lot of places. How does something like Trainual expedite the creation of this so it's not a 6 month project that takes 20 hours a week for the owner?
Yeah, so there's three different things that come to mind. First of all, is anyone, if they decide to move forward with Traineal, anyone that's part of this conference and the work that you're doing will have access to specific content that'll help them.
Mm.
So baseline practice content that's plug and play. They'll have access to that.
To the
Also,
extent where they can even pull in from my practice, we volunteered to let them use essentially the content in there. Run it by
correct.
your own lawyer, folks. But
Yes,
yeah,
but they can, I mean, their account will come pre-populated with stuff that they can use verbatim. They can modify, they can pick and choose what they want. All Trainio accounts also come with hundreds and hundreds of templates.
mm,
Things like, how do I use Salesforce? How do I create a maternity leave policy? So all those things are there. And again, you can copy them and paste them. You can use aspects of them. And then the third thing that's available is we also have over 100 certified experts that are part of our community, and they can go into a practice. So if someone says, look, the content's great, the templates are great, can I just put someone on retainer for a couple $1,000 a month to manage this for me? We also offer that option as well. So
Mhm.
a lot of ways that we can help because, look, any piece of technology is only as good as the content you're putting in it. So what's the best CRM? Well, the one you use and
Yeah,
put your
right.
contacts in. It's the
Yeah.
same with this. So we're trying to make sure, and we'll talk more about this during the session, but we're trying to make sure that we're giving people a pretty massive head start that like the idea of this, but don't have an extra 40 hours a week to build it all out from scratch.
So tell us what you're going to talk about at the POW conference, Practice Operations and Workflow. You got a chance to inform the folks. What are they going to hear? What can they
Yep.
expect to get out of spending some time with you?
So as you can tell, I'm going to move fast and cover a lot, and I've got a lot of passion, energy for the topic. The session is called "Building Your Business Playbook: How to Drive Relentless Execution from Your Team." And what that really means is getting people up to speed faster, onboarding them faster, giving them access to information faster. So how do we build that centralized business playbook? And we'll talk through step by step and specific ways to go about doing that. I mean, that you'll walk out and go, okay, I have a plan now. This isn't just all theory, but it's actually specific things to do. So how to build all that out and remove as many bottlenecks and impediments as possible to do that. And obviously we've talked a lot about the importance of having that playbook for the practice, especially as you scale, especially as you go multi-location. But the other important part of this too that we'll talk about, and I always like talking about because people perk up and get excited, is you're creating more value for your business
Mhm.
because now it comes with an operating manual and it's
Mhm.
not, oh, it's in, Doc's head over there, or, oh, this is the COO and, she's the gatekeeper of all that information. But it's here you go. Here's a plug and play playbook for every aspect of our practice. And it makes it easier to sell and for a better multiple, quite frankly.
Oh yeah, so I've gotten involved on the investment banking side now, and I can tell you that's one of the things right out of the gate that any buyer wants to look at is how much is this thing operating outside of the owner or the founder's brain. If it's all locked up in the founder's brain, then you're buying the founder, not the business, and that's a much sketchier proposition.
Oh yeah, your multiple goes down immediately. I mean, a company that I know that does a bunch of transactions, they call it a demerit. They're like, well,
Yeah,
that's a demerit right there.
yeah.
That the multiple just went down, and it may take us longer to sell. So that I mean, what we're talking about here in this session is imagine, okay, the time comes, I want to merge, I want to sell, I want to acquire other practices and move them in. Well, what do you want? You want to say, here is a very intuitive AI powered platform that
Mhm.
has mission, vision, values, org chart, roles, responsibilities, how to do every single responsibility in the business, our employee handbook, everything. I mean, imagine showing that to someone. I mean,
Yeah.
their socks would be blown off.
Right out of the gate. Well, we're
Yeah.
going to put a link in the video when we post, and you'll be at the conference. But if somebody wants to just go ahead and get this rolling with you now, how do
Yep.
they reach out to you? Get that copy of our existing manual that they can use. Is the best thing to email you or what?
Yep. Tom at trainual.com, TOM at TRAINUAL.com. And we'll take care of everything. I'll make sure that you're in the hands of someone that can give you a demo, give you pricing, walk through the content, and yeah, we'll get you all squared away. That's
Yeah.
easy.
I will tell you over the years that this is I mean it paid for itself the first year just in my recouped time. Just an extra client a week I could see this thing was a win. But as we've scaled, there's no way that my management team would be freed up to digest the growth we're doing if they were constantly running around re-explaining policies. So we love the
Yep.
product. We've loved working with you, Tom. Excited to have you at PAL conference. We'll see you in a few weeks.
Looking forward to it.
Thank you.